This offseason, there were many trade rumors surrounding the Denver Broncos wide receiving core. In particular, Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy were the two top names that were mentioned as far as potential trade packages that the Denver Broncos could be interested in, especially early in the offseason when there were a lot of mock trades and mock draft trades and stuff like that going down. As the offseason progressed, those rumors significantly died down, especially after Sean Payton basically came out and said that the Broncos were not trading away Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. But we did hear over the course of the offseason, and it's now been confirmed in a recent report by ESPN's Jeff Legwold, senior Broncos reporter for ESPN, that the Broncos did listen to some trade offers for Jerry Jeudy, but they're not the ones who initiated those talks. It was other teams that did. We know for sure that one of those teams was the Cleveland Browns, and there was a rumor out there that the Broncos did heavily entertain the Browns package before Cleveland ultimately shifted and moved on to trade for Elijah Moore from the Jets. Now, according to Legwold, those teams were told that the Broncos would not move Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy in particular, for anything less than a first-round draft pick. That's something that I pretty much knew from the get-go, just based on my own judgments and assumptions. I never felt like the Broncos were itching to trade away Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, because both of them are key pieces for our offense. They're both key foundational building blocks for the future of this team, especially guys like Jerry Jeudy, who finally broke out into that wide receiver one role that everyone had expected him to break into earlier when he was drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft out of Alabama. In the last 6 games of last season, Jeudy looked like a true alpha wide receiver. His route running, which has always been elite in terms of talent, was finally more consistent. He wasn't running into defenders on a basis that I felt like he was, especially in his rookie season. There's this overblown narrative out there that Jerry Jeudy has butterfingers. Yeah, his rookie season, that definitely rang true, especially in that Chargers game where he dropped 5 balls. But after that, he's really worked on the jugs machine and worked on getting better with his hands, and the drops haven't really been a big issue for Jerry Jeudy since his rookie season. So overall, I don't think that the Broncos were looking to move on from Jerry Jeudy, but at the same time, they had to be realistic about where they sat. We were lacking draft capital. We didn't have a first-round pick because of the Sean Payton trade and the Russell Wilson trade. So if the team had an opportunity to add another first-round pick, especially a higher first-round pick, I imagine the Broncos maybe even upped the ante to something that was a little bit more unrealistic, because in negotiations, you always start high and work your way down. I imagine the Broncos were probably initially asking for a top 10 pick in exchange for Jerry Jeudy. Now, they knew that nobody was ever going to give up that kind of draft capital for a fairly unproven commodity, if we're being honest, in Jerry Jeudy. But if somebody was willing to do it, the Broncos would have been absolutely foolish to say no. The Broncos could have very easily used that first round pick on a key position of need, or they could have traded down and acquired more picks, and they still could have filled that wide receiver position. We've got plenty of commodities at that position, even if we were to trade somebody away. The Broncos ultimately did add to that position with their first pick with the selection of Marvin Mims, but that's more so, I feel like, insurance for the KJ Hamler role than the Jerry Jeudy role. With Jerry Jeudy, the Broncos were just in a position where if somebody offers a top 10 pick, you've got to take it. That's just business in the NFL. But if nobody is willing to offer that kind of draft capital, which all the other smart teams in the NFL, that's what they ended up not doing, then the Broncos were like, okay, we're more than content with keeping Jerry Jeudy. We're not the ones who initiated those trade talks. It was these other teams that were hoping that the Broncos were trying to get some more draft pieces and maybe viewed one of their commodities such as Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy as an expendable piece. I feel like a lot of the teams who called interested in Jerry Jeudy were probably told he's not available, but Courtland Sutton is for less than a top 10 pick, maybe a mid-first round pick or something like that. But obviously, again, no team is going to make that trade. So it's just the Broncos doing their due diligence, and they're going to pick up the phone, but they're going to ask for an unrealistic price if they were to move a key piece of our offense like Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. Since the Broncos opted to stay pat with Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, I want to talk about what their roles are going to be in this Sean Payton offense. Payton has already clarified that Courtland Sutton is going to serve as the X wide receiver. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in terms of alignment. Now, I also feel like Tim Patrick could also see some reps in that number 1 X receiver role, considering that he's got such a similar skill set to Courtland Sutton. Although I actually feel like Tim Patrick has shown to be a bit of a better possession wide receiver than Courtland Sutton is, as crazy as that is to say, because that really is Courtland Sutton's bread and butter. So I feel like the Broncos may sort of interchange Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick as sort of that main X wide receiver role, depending on what they are asking each player to do in a given situation. Then Jerry Jeudy is going to fill sort of that Z receiver role, and I feel like he's going to thrive in that Z receiver role. Now, just because in the alignment he's going to be the number 2 receiver, that doesn't mean he's going to be the number 2 target. In fact, I feel like Jerry Jeudy is going to get the most targets out of all the wide receivers. Sometimes when you hear wide receiver 2 or number 2 receiver in the NFL, sometimes they're talking about the alignment, not necessarily how they rank in terms of volume share in targets. Then it's going to be KJ Hamler and Marvin Mims who will be splitting time in the slot. Marvin Mims, considering where he was drafted, I feel like is going to get significant time in that slot receiver role. But KJ Hamler is our fastest player on the field when he's healthy. So putting him in the slot, matching him up against a nickel, that could be a mismatch nightmare for the Denver Broncos. Then we have to think about also when we're in 4 wide receiver sets, that would allow us to have Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims, and KJ Hamler on the field at the same time. Or we could even insert Tim Patrick in that equation. We could put him outside on the boundary. And then we'd have a really lethal duo in the slot of Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims and or KJ Hamler. No matter how you look at it, Broncos country, we have got an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position, and we're very fortunate that the Broncos decided to stay pat at the wide receiver position and not move on from Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. Because if we moved on from one of those guys, I feel like that would just give us that little bit less in terms of versatility and just overall the different varieties of things that we're able to do on this offense. Having guys like Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton and Marvin Mims and KJ Hamler who can sort of fill multiple roles on this offense, that is absolutely huge for us. So I'm curious, Broncos country, what do you guys feel like a fair trade package for Jerry Jeudy would have been? What would you have taken in order to move the needle and say, yes, I'm going to trade Jerry Jeudy? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out to fellow members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.